I have a whole bunch of filters here. I've got a ton of hang on the back filters. I've got canister filters on the way, and I'm working on a project where I'm measuring and analyzing them. And one thing that I've noticed that's common amongst all the filters that I've seen so far is something that I don't believe is correct, and I'm gonna tell you what that is today. Hey fish friends, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Zenzo from Tazawa Tanks. Now when I said I have a lot of filters, I have a lot of filters here. In fact, I tried to pick them up, and as much weightlifting as I do, I cannot pick all of these up and show you on camera. Actually, let me grab a camera and show you what I'm talking about. So as you can see, that's a lot of filters, and you might be wondering, why do I have so many filters here, all different brands? Especially because I'm one that doesn't like using filters that plug into the wall. I like using air-driven filters, which is why pretty much every aquarium down here in this fish room runs off of air, using sponge filters or some other type of air-driven filter. But the reason why I'm doing it is that it's for my day job. I work for Aquarium Co-op, and I'm working on a project where I am measuring and cataloging all of the filters to help customers in the future. So anyway, more to come on that down the road. What I noticed with all these filters, and I don't want to pick on any brand because that's not what I'm talking about, and that's not even anything that I'm analyzing. They all have their attributes, they all have their faults. But one thing that they all do, and that's the same thing, is they all talk about gallons per hour. So on every box that I've seen so far, it's gonna say how many gallons per hour or how many liters per hour. 110, 153, 200 gallons per hour, whatever it may be, depending on the size of the filter, they all say how many gallons per hour. Before I tell you why, let's talk about what gallons per hour is. So gallons per hour basically just means how much water flows through a filter in an hour, and that's measured by either liters or gallons. Because I'm in the US, I'll keep saying gallons, but if you're somewhere else, it's liters per hour. So this is one of my older filters that I have used, clearly, and it's one of my favorite types. This is the Aqua Clear. I forgot what model it is, probably the 50 or something. But basically, there's a tube that comes down here. Water gets sucked up through the tube by the motor, that's right here. And then it passes through the filter media, and pours back out into the aquarium. And they measure that. They measure how much water flows through the filter, and that is where they get their gallons or liters per hour. Here's why they do it. I think they do it because they have to. It's a marketing thing, right? Everybody wants to know how many gallons per hour does that filter pass through, whether it's a canister filter or a hang on a back filter, an internal filter, any driven filter that has media inside of it. For some reason, consumers want to know how many gallons per hour that is, and I don't believe that that matters at all. Now, before I tell you my thoughts, I want to say that back in the old days, I used to be in that gallons per hour camp where I thought, oh yeah, I'm moving 800 gallons per hour in my 75-gallon tank, so it's turning over 10 times an hour. Over the years, I've lessened and lessened the gallons per hour. I've focused more on biological filtration through certain types of media, and I have found that the gallons per hour had no positive impact on what I was doing, and in fact, slowing the flow down actually had a benefit. So to use an analogy, think about like the 5-second rule, right? So if you're eating something and you drop it on the ground, you pick it up real quickly, you kind of think, oh, it's okay, it was barely on the ground, right? It's like the 5-second rule. That's not scientific, but if you were to like take a bite out of something and drop it on the ground and it sits there for an hour, there's a greater chance that whatever's on the ground is going to end up on that apple, right? Versus you picking it up real quick. So that's kind of how I view the ammonia and the nitrifying bacteria in your filter working. So this is just kind of like a little visual thing to maybe help you see what's going on in my brain. So imagine that this little green washcloth microfiber towel is ammonia. It's green, so we can think it's ammonia. And let's pretend like this little red ball, which is actually my dog's toy, let's pretend that this is like a one beneficial bacteria. If this is ammonia and this is bacteria, and water's flowing really quickly through the area where the beneficial bacteria is, it's basically just touching, passing through. And my belief, my hypothesis is that the beneficial bacteria doesn't have enough time to consume the ammonia and to convert that into nitrite, and then in turn it's converted into nitrate. Now if the ammonia in the water column is passing through slower, and that beneficial bacteria has time to, you know, to kind of bond to that ammonia and start to munch on it, and then it'll pass through more media with more red balls behind it, I think that it's going to convert better. And the reason why I kind of came up with, came to this conclusion, one, just through my own experiences, looking at my pond outside and how slow the water flows through my giant filter that's filled with tons of media, looking at my sump filtration and how I've turned the flow down and even removed pumps out of there just to slow the flow, and also talking to a lot of other fish experts that have also experienced the same thing. So going back to my good old trusty AquaClear filter, it has this basket on it, and you know, you can fill the basket with a ton of media. So you can just stack this thing full of like sponge material or whatever you want to put in there, rings and, you know, but the great thing about these filters is that there's a ton of media that water has to pass through, which is again giving you that longer touch. And then you can, you know, do things to modify it to slow it down, or just not have the giant largest filter on an aquarium. Now there are things that flow rate, you know, that flow rate does help. Obviously it's going to help with polishing the water. So polishing water means removing those smaller particles that are floating in the water that you don't really want to see. You want to see that crystal clear water. So the more water that passes through the filter material will catch those particles. But that's mechanical filtration, that's not biological filtration. And then another benefit of having a higher flow rate would be movement in the aquarium, so making sure that there's no like still or dead spots in the aquarium, and that water is being, you know, distributed around evenly and efficiently. But I think that you can do that with like an air stone. You can do that by turning your filter down. It doesn't have to be cranking on full blast. Obviously the fish swimming around will also create movement in the aquarium. So overall, I don't think that gallons per hour should be the deciding factor when looking at a filter. I think that you should be looking at a lot of other things besides just gallons per hour. In fact, I would make that kind of the least thing that I would look at, and I would look at more of like surface area for media, beneficial bacteria. What kind of media can you use? How efficient is the filter as far as you know, energy? How reliable is the filter? The materials that they use. Is there anything that is in that filter design that you could see as being an issue down the road with the type of fish that you keep or the invertebrates that you keep? Are you going to get fish stuck in there? Are you going to get shrimp stuck in there? Things like that. So those are all the other things that I would consider. And as I am looking at all these filters and thinking, if I were to have one of these hang on the back filters, which one would I want to keep? Think about all that other stuff and not on the gallons per hour or liters per hour if you are somewhere else. I am curious to know your thoughts and your opinion on the gallons or liters per hour versus the amount of media. So comment down below what you think about that. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel. If you don't like it, well, give it a thumbs down. Even though everyone else can't see it, I can see it, and that lets me know, hey, that's a stinker of a video, don't make that one again. If you've made it this far, do me a big favor and also consider subscribing to this channel. That's all I have for now. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the next one.